Gregory Rodrigues takes on Jack Hermanson this Saturday as the featured prelim of UFC 317. And I think this is going to be a really fun fight. Very competitive. Both these guys are very well-rounded. High-level skills on the feet and on the ground. So I think this is going to be a very fun back-and-forth fight. Jack Hermanson, he's 37 years old, so kind of getting up there in age. Hasn't been the most active guy as of late, just due to injuries and things like that. So curious to see how he kind of performs as he's approaching 40. He's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach and 24-8 in his career. Again, very well-rounded guy, solid chin, was eating good shots from Joe Pyfer, which was his last fight back in, February of 2024, so hasn't been in there in about a year and a half. But, Joe Pyfer throws with a lot of intent, serious consequences coming your way, and he was eating those shots pretty well. And as the fight progressed, was doing very well defensively, avoiding those shots and landing his own. Checks kicks very well, great calf kicks. He was going tit for tat with Joe Pyfer on the feet, just exchanging in the pocket, which is, if you know Joe Pyfer, you know how impressive that is. Good defense as well, hands high, rolls well with punches, keeps his chin tucked, has a really good check counter. As guys are pushing forward, he throws that check counter to kind of keep guys at bay, and was pushing Joe Pyfer back in their fight, moving forward, kind of dictating the fight as the rounds went on. And he's one of those guys who can fight forward and backwards, has a really good jab, a kind of a clubbing right hand. Just sneaky good striking to go with his really good grappling game. Great takedown defense, 80% takedown defense, defended all the takedown attempts from Joe Pyfer, I believe. And jiu-jitsu black belt, been training jiu-jitsu and for a long time, and started Greco-Roman wrestling at the age of 9. Great cardio, able to push a super high pace wherever it goes. Was nonstop in his fight against Joe Pyfer, which was a 5-round fight. Only concern I have with him, he's kind of lost to some not the best competition. Marvin Vettori, Cesar Ferreira back in the day. Has a loss to Sean Strickland by split decision. Not a terrible loss. Lost to Roman Dolidze, but that he took that fight on short notice. But coming off of a win over Joe Pyfer, and another concern is just injuries. He hasn't been the most active guy. He's only fought like 4 times in the last 3 years, and like I said, hasn't fought since February of 2024. And 37 years old. But taking on Gregory Rodrigues, who's 33 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach and 16-6 in his career. So he's going to be 4 years younger, 2 inches taller, but give up 2 inches in reach. Another guy who's very well-rounded, can finish the fight wherever it goes. Good striking, good power, very aggressive on the feet, just kind of walks opponents down. We saw that in his last fight with Jared Cannonier, as long as that lasted, as long as he could do that before he started to gas. And dropped Cannonier twice in the first round, but kind of fizzled out after that. Very high level jiu-jitsu black belt. He's like an 8-time Brazilian jiu-jitsu champion, grew up wrestling, doing judo, and also has very good takedown defense, 88%. He will slow down in fights. His cardio is a concern. It looked like he was going to be running through Jared Cannonier in his last fight, but started to fizzle out and gas. Even at the beginning of round 2, he looked like he was starting to slow down. But fights before that, he went 3 rounds with Christian Leroy Duncan, was putting a lot of volume out there on the feet. So I don't know if he just kind of wore himself out looking for that finish against Jared Cannonier in the first round, but cardio is definitely a concern and something we need to take into account, because he will get tired, his hands will start to drop, he will start to get a little bit more hittable like we saw in the Cannonier fight. And somebody like Jack Hermanson's never going to stop. He's very technical, he can shoot takedowns, he can do it all, and you never really have to worry about him gassing out or slowing down as the fight goes on. And we saw him perform very well in a 5-round fight. This one's only 3 rounds, so I don't think the gas tank's really going to be a concern on Hermanson's end. Another thing is Rodrigues is kind of chinny. He's been KO'd like 4 times in his career. He was knocked down in the 3rd round of the Jared Cannonier fight before he was then TKO'd in round 4. So took some damage in that fight. Not going to have a lot of confidence coming into this one. I can almost guarantee it. Just kind of the performance that he had, and kind of fumbled it in the first round. And was knocked out by Bruno Ferreira. Went to a split decision with Armin Petrosian, which, in hindsight isn't a great look. Knocked out by Jordan Williams, which, again, not a good look. And then knocked out by Bruno Lopez in his pro debut back in 2014. So, again, I think this is more of a 50-50 fight than the odds are giving it. They've got Gregory Rodrigues at like minus 185. And I think that's just because Jack Hermanson, he is getting up there in age. He hasn't been in there in a while. Like I said, only fought like 4 times over the last few years. So I feel like this would be a much different story if he had fought more recently. and was staying a little bit more active. But since he's not, I'm gonna have to go with Gregory Rodrigues. This kind of reminds me of where I was with like Kevin Holland just a few fights ago, or Vicente Luque, where it's like they just have such a bad performance. It's like I can't pick this guy. I gotta pick against them, just considering their last performance, and they've got to prove to me that they still want it and they can still perform at a high level. And both those guys did in their next performance, and that's kind of where I feel with Gregory Rodrigues here. I feel like he's going to learn a lot from that last fight and being able to kind of pace himself. And even before the 4th round, like, he was doing well. You could say that he was managing the fight well and maybe winning it before he got dropped in the end of the 3rd round. You could say that maybe it was 1-1 going into the 3rd. In that 3rd round, I would probably lean to Rodrigues before he got dropped. And in this fight, it's only 3 rounds, so he can push a much higher pace than he could against a 5-round fight. So I think that he can, start off earlier than he normally would and get on the gas early. And I just trust him to be able to push forward and throw more volume and just land the more consequential shots. I don't think that he has to be worried about kind of what's coming back at him from Jack Hermanson necessarily. He's not the biggest power puncher in the world, not really a knockout guy. He was landing good shots against Joe Pyfer, but nothing that really rocked him to a significant degree. So I think Gregory Rodrigues doesn't really have to worry about getting chinned in this one, just because Jack Hermanson, he usually uses his striking to kind of set up his grappling and more of a threat on the ground and finishing the fight. I think he'll have learned from the last fight. He'll be able to kind of manage his gas and his cardio a little bit better in this three-round fight. And Hermanson, 37 years old, not being the most active, I think he'll be able to push a high pace, land good shots, eat shots, work his wrestling to kind of wear on Rodrigues potentially. But I trust Rodrigues' ability to keep it on the feet or get his takedowns if he wants, land the better shots, and win this one by decision. Thanks.